Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As I got here, I'm going to be bringing to you the number 10, the 10th day of the House Legion League, and we only have one battle for today. As you can see, I have started late. That is because we didn't get an 8 o'clock battle. I did tell you guys last time. So today we have only one battle tonight because apparently the other scheduled battle for BMP versus QAT not happening. We have ECL versus VNH. I do think ECL will easily sweep out VNH, but I hope VNH does come back. It was a, well, I say once was. It's been a long time since VNH has ever been competitive. I think the only ever time they won was once. Well, I mean, something like that. I believe VNH was the winner in the very first tournament setting, one where I believe Crusaders were not a part of. It was before Wrath of Nomads, I believe. But anyway, we have battles on the White Elk Fort. It does look like ECL is going to be attacked first, and for some reason, I am getting carpal tunnel syndrome on a part of my arm. Well, my index finger, by the looks of it. I have been farming too much on Lost Ark. Maybe I should give it a rest. But nevertheless, I do hope you guys enjoy the stream. But no, I hope you guys enjoy the stream and double hope that we get a nice and good battle. Normally, the best battles are between two teams of similar skill. I say similar. But hopefully we get a move on. Shortly, one more minute to go, we'll be heading into the time to go. We got some interesting changes as well from our last update. Wonder whether or not that will affect the lineup in any way, shape, or capacity. One of the more interesting ones was the reversal of a debuff or a nerf to the Axe Raiders. Axe Raiders were historically extraordinarily difficult to kill. I believe the reversal here comes in line with kind of the strength and comes in line with the kind of the strength and damage that we see nowadays. We do see a lot of from time to time a lot of damage coming out from some of the newer units, especially. I definitely do not believe that Axe Raiders deserve getting the change over other units getting buffed, but let's be honest, getting other units back into the meta, I'm happy for it. The changes are overall unimpressive, but maybe they'll get back. Maybe we'll see some shine back in, and especially since we're kind of in that zone where ranged units in particular can shine. A lot of the shield units not being used does mean that we're going to get a lot of ranged units come in and out as dependent on how fast or rapid the game gets. Does seem like we got a little bit of a mixture of a slow grind ish, and it's a little bit iffy when I say slow grind because realistically the battles are very fast. When you're on the front line, the amount of damage and the amount of damage output and how much people are tanking, it's kind of crazy. But there is a kind of ebb and flow, mainly to do with how the monks work. Sometimes the monks get locked up in their spin, which is really great because it just slows down the pace of the battle because no one's walking into their spin. You would be an idiot to. Um, and definitely a even bigger idiot to walk into the slam. Slam's quite long range if I have ever been hit by them. Been hit by them a lot actually. So Another interesting change is the Houndsman. Houndsman never really got a good rap as a tier 5 unit. Probably one of the more unique but weaker tier 5s you'd probably ever see. And one that sadly suffers from not an identity crisis, but from kind of norms which holds it back. I think a really good change was to the Hounds in particular, changing that 4,800 health, boosting it by 32%, and um, putting it only around about 6,000. I think the change was great that the Hounds got a little bit of a buff, but it's still a bit too small. But then if you really think about it, Hounds are not really deserving of a health pool of 10,000. But I really do think that Hounds needed some kind of life into them to kind of really contend with the infantry. Whether or not, in my head, I thought doubling the number of dogs would probably be better rather than um, rather than giving them more health. But this probably does the same. That being said, I have also heard that also not heard, but like there has been a buff to their heal. Sorry, they've been given a heal for when they get hit. I'm not entirely sure about the condition, or rather the condition. I'm much rather skeptical on the outcome, which is the heal, which I have been told is very strong, almost near immortal. Some people have been informing me. I will have to check that out at a later date, not tonight, of course. Well, maybe I'll check it out tonight with a couple of games after these commentaries. But I do think the heal was a nice touch. I did think after hearing that heal, giving dogs a base regeneration would have allowed them to be more usable and definitely allow people to be a bit more aggressive with them. I don't think the hounds really pose much threat. There was a time where I think adding more damage to the hounds was probably a proper move. Giving them a high raw damage, somewhere in the ballpark of probably 1,000 piercing damage. But I think this is also a good move as well, giving the dogs a kind of strong vitality to them, giving them a bit more health and giving them that regen was probably a better move. Probably getting more cycles out of them at the very least. Anyway, we have begun, which is we have begun the first battle. I'm gonna let you guys take a look at the unit lineup as we stare into the abyss of a map. Still don't know why they haven't fixed this, but they'll get to it eventually. VN House, crazy number of cavalry. I would say almost half of their units are cavalry at this point. ACL not so much. They are on the attack, so they're gonna have to be a bit careful of how they approach the ground. I would say not enough fortibrachos for VN House though. Nearly every single person, probably 10 fortibrachos for VN House, probably 12 or 13 for ECL. Again, fortibrachos are very important anti-cavalry, since other anti-cavalry units just not cutting it nowadays. But we do see a couple of others, halberdiers there. No Modals. Oh wait, no, one Modal coming out from BN House, which is an interesting pick overall. A lot of heavy armors coming out from both sides. I do think a little bit more from VN House. I think the killing power from ECL might edge out and definitely become in handy sometime in the later section But nevertheless, we have the units to worry about as well. On defense, we have been seeing lately that the artillery usage has really been shockingly strong against the attackers and has have been buying much needed time for the defenders. But that also has to do with attackers really struggling to get some nice artillery placements to land directly square onto. Well, we have a nice, well, not nice. We have a Trebs immediately onto the Divine Crow there on the left-hand side. We have a metallic door shooting right over the wall on the left-hand siege tower. Want to control that left-hand side, probably for the best. Again, I'm not really sure why the left-hand side wall has always been uncontested by the attackers, even though it's very powerful. But with great power comes a lot of risk. Well, comes great rewards, comes a lot of risk. And that setup could be very, very annoying. We have a Gulrin there in the center. Epic. We'll destroy that battering ram very quickly. Whoa, where did that come from? Oh wait, of course. We got some longbows up here. Longbows on a wall, much a chagrin to me. I hate longbows with a passion, and honestly, I do think longbows should suffer from range drop off, but I do think they should receive bonuses for short range. So, put it lightly, at probably around 60 or maybe to 100 meters, they'll deal like 1,000 damage. And when you're within, let's say, about 10 meters, does around about 3,000 damage with basic attacks. Uh, not sure about their normal skills and things, how the damage drop off would correlate, but that is my kind of view on how range should be balanced. Get it a little bit weaker on the long range, get it really strong on the shorter range, improving or definitely getting people to use range closer rather than further. They'll still have that nice poke ability, but won't really dominate like they are currently. You have long range units like the Vassal Longbowmen, really dominating super hard because of their super long range and near zero drop off. I think they do drop off a tiny bit of damage compared to point blank, but in comparison, it's almost muted or non-existent. So they'll do that 2,000 damage from 10 meters away as the same as it is 100 meters away. What's also brutal is the 80% accuracy on standard on stationary targets. Vassal Longbowman's really, really, really terrifying to deal with over a long run. Not that we're going to see any in a battle here, but they could be useful. They could be useful in some circumstances. I do believe that some more high impact range would probably be used. ECL taking a very similar approach from their last battle. Does look like ECL is none the wiser. I would say, however, should probably be careful wary of their backs here. Not very much engagement so far. We do have a more than equal numbers for both Tier 4 and Tier 5. Slowly but surely, the defenders' artilleries are getting clocked out by some nice placed Trebs. Would definitely not be a waste to take out an artillery with a Treb. And as I said before, the artillery advantage becomes very muted when the defenders can throw 30 artillery at you. It takes a very long time to really change that. It's always very funny when the ground leaf kind of covers the war rocket. We do have a couple of people here on the left-hand side, And it does look like we have ECL Gong coming out with the Axe Raiders, along with some very interesting Retiaris. Retiaris, elevation, do suffer from elevation issues, and oh, very unfortunate. Siege weapons get instantly destroyed here, and could be unfortunate here. Does lose quite a few monks, just lets them fight here on the stairs. Whoa! Missing out some of the big impact right now. We have a tidal wave coming through straight onto the supply point. I'm not exactly sure what should I focus on, but right now this supply point is probably the hard point for VN House. A point should probably be the focus as these guys, well, maybe they could clear it out. I do think grabbing the A point with one person, it would be wise. There's not much reason to have everyone here as they do get swept out. Didn't really see very much. The trees did get in the way, but it did look like a lot of cavalry tried to bust the way through. But it was the infantry that really cleaned up the mess, and it did look like what the survivors are again, the ISGs. We did see some shield maidens, and of course the Murmielones. Daggerac Lancer's response does heavy damage, but does it kill? That is the question. Doesn't look like a high kill, but we got plenty of camels coming out, probably trying to grab that supply point back. Does look like two short swords, in fact, with some Yan Yu Dao's hold off. Well, not hold off the A point for now. Taking a quick look at the battle here. Did look like all the ISG did get killed again and pressured forthright, getting pushed all the way out. Big exchange yet again, but I do think ECL's primary victory was huge right now. The cavalry sweeping out ECL is not as impressive, mainly because the losses are still there. As you can see, they were even when we started, but a loss of, what was it, 300, or rather, units of the tier 4 variety. Pretty impressive indeed for ECL, though no A point. That is a big, that is a unfortunate reality. They'll have 5 minutes to mount a second attack, though. I am pressing buttons here, and I forget which button's which right now. Come on. Now I press this one. There we go. Preview. Nope. There we go. Also, it did look like VN House did lose more heroes. It was tab. It was tab. The button I was looking. Yeah, it did look like VN House did lose more heroes in that exchange. Well, lives. Of course, with the massive respawn, that would definitely explain a lot. Oh, fight in the back. Ooh, that is very brutal. Yan Yadao cavalry is facing off against each other. I do think a big sweep. Whoa! Flamers catching a bunch of cavalry, but again, charging at each other on corners like that, you better be very careful when you do a charge like that. We're gonna get some corner cuts, though, as the people here on the back supply are about to get absolutely murdered. Got two heroes in the back gonna get killed. Off to a very bad start. We got some Falconettis shooting into what seems to be an ISG. Again, probably not the best to leave them in formation. Cover Commander is the best, but they're doing their job. They're soaking up damage. But right now, they're going to get whacked. So is the Forte Braccio is isolated. We got some Shenji grenades, but I'm not even sure if it was friendly or it was enemy. It does look like it was friendly. Another formation back here. Let's see if it holds. Right now, ISG trying to make their way through. Right-hand side of this VN House formation is probably going to get busted up, as indeed the shield units are making its way around, cutting right through. Whoop, the center section is still holding, surprisingly, even though people are right on top of them. Shield Maidens finally also make it to the back, cuts off the Shenji. The A point does get picked up by ECL, and the supply point is completely crushed. There were some other nice other fights around the place, but the main fight for towards the supply point was the hardest and strong. Was the largest, I would say. In the grand scheme of things, another heavy loss for VN House. Fight towards the base point is going to be pretty nasty for VN House with whatever they got left. I do think ECL could press their advantage straight through the center, maybe. Although they would be cutting off reinforcement for the most part. It is not entirely impossible. It does look like they don't go for a front-on confrontation with the reinforcements, but they do bait in a Yan Yudao. Maybe not bait is the right word, though the Yan Yudao do get killed. They did take out the Fort of Russia as the Imperial Spear Guard survives the hit, though. Brutal reality as they chug through. Nasty hits from the Yan Yudaos, really just swiping out entire sections of the enemy. Very difficult to deal with as well. Yan Yudaos also move towards the back section here. A slow grind for the beginning. It does look like ECL is taking a methodical approach. We have some... Whoa! Yan Yudaos come in through the backside! Slaps super hard onto that Fort of Russia. Oh, no, I take that back. That was the Halberdiers. Halberdiers, not Fort of Russia's. I don't even think those Halberdiers even knew what hit them. Trying to catch some good action right now. We have Camels holding the line. Again, Camels take a while to kill, especially while they're in brace formation. Massive cavalry comes in through rear, gets absolutely skewered. But did you see that front, that rear section of Borderashers just absolutely disappear, only getting skewered by the second. Almost all of the three Borderashers getting cleared out. ECL comes in with their own cavalry, the Anudel, and making short work of whatever remains. There wasn't very much, in fact, are charging Pike Militia. Not even Pike Militia, sorry. Those are Village Watchmen. ECL trying to throw units through. Surprising no one there getting slaughtered as the units are barely on the field for VN House while the units are out in force for ECL. ECL is just struggling to get a full control over the base point right now as they are hunting down the final hero from VN House. And as to be expected, VN House making terrible exchanges throughout the entire battle, but nevertheless did manage to get a big pickup when they get pushed out. But unfortunately, I think ECL could have probably had been more aggressive with their push, forcing VN House in a one big battle, though it is still to be seen how ECL really struggled to muster in the forces. I did think that it looked a bit weird coming in kind of sparsely. VN House definitely did a good job there near at the end, keeping ECL kind of distracted with smaller skirmishes or coming in from different directions, which is awesome for a team, and every single team should definitely be looking for them flanks and rear attacks. And as you can see, nearly every exchange was in favor of ECL, but ECL kind of faltering there before their last attack, but in the end dragging it back as more units kind of spawned back in. For one reason or the other, VN House has shown itself to be very effective, and I do think they are a very strong team, probably in the lower middle, while probably ECL does sit in the middle for me, probably top 16 Um, Probably top 16 for the most parts. Probably top 16s for both of them, really. But ECL is still a step ahead. Got that stronger performance out from their units and their heroes. Didn't really see much coming out from the heroes for VN House. I do think overall there is a lack of killing power. It was quite slow some engagements, and most of the engagements were kind of won purely from the units. Though didn't get to see much of the first attack. The second attack did seem a little bit slow. Can't wrap around properly. Uh, can't wrap around properly in that area. The supply point in White Elk Fort, not really a good. Uh, it's not really a It's not really a good corner. The pathway is in to that supply point. It could also do with the fact of how VN House set up themselves. Did look like it was practice. The particular spot they were choosing probably was the strongest section to hold onto the supply point. Again, though, the lack of ability to win against ECL in a straight battle was really showing. VN House probably started to come in its own when they were being a little bit more aggressive, but probably to avoid mistakes, they tried to stay on the defensive. It is quite easy to make a lot of mistakes when you go for the offensive. I wouldn't put it past you to think that VN House is more of a defensive team, but I'll be honest with you, I do think a lot of teams really underestimate their skills offensively when they start attacking rather than passively waiting for people to make mistakes. It's much easier to sit back, but it's much harder to guarantee the win when you're waiting for the enemy to make mistakes. Sometimes you got to be a bit more proactive, and it definitely does seem that VN House has a hard time switching between the two, switching between being passive, letting the enemies make mistakes, and creating opportunities for themselves. Though ECL does seem to have a um, really strong performance, being quite aggressive and proactive. Individual players are more effective than others, and the disconnect between teammates do come or show up time and again, and this does show overall when certain sections of the battle are not uh, in tune with one another. So you definitely get that feeling that ECL can't fight on multiple fronts simultaneously and pressure in a cohesive manner to maximize effectiveness. They do seem to kind of throw themselves at unopportune times on occasions, but sometimes it works out. But the good thing is that we get a lot less artillery reliance. A lot of the artilleries is kind of just shooting each other for the most parts. Um, Not to say that the importance of artillery is lowered in this case. I do think artillery is extraordinarily important. I just love that we get to see a little bit more unit fighting rather than people using artillery to blow up each other. So the aggressiveness from both sides do come into that. Right now we have a lot of cavalry yet again, probably more than enough Yanudals to fill up a 15 roster. Only three people not ringing out the Yanudao for VN House. We got a couple of cavalry coming up from ECL, but not that many. You don't really need a lot of cavalry to be effective, but a lot of cavalry being effective is probably much harder. You're going to have to sacrifice a couple of these cavalries to kind of get in. And ECL could easily sacrifice some of their infantry units who could possibly survive in a lot of situations rather than cavalry who will more likely die in order to create that opportunity. So instead of sacrificing 2 cavalry or 1 cavalry for 1 cavalry to get in, you could occupy the enemy with a stronger holding units like ISGs, which are more than likely going to survive for your Daggerack Lancers to slap the enemy into oblivion. So we have been seeing a quite standard start. Blister this time gets destroyed by the Treb. I do think the Divine Crow very important to take out, but probably not a priority if you wait to push the battering siege tower. Was that a cannon? That looked like a cannon shot firing out. Probably wrong. Got some culverin shots firing straight into the battering ram. Control of the front gate has kind of been a good strategy for mostly all teams. It does really restrict the attackers for coming in with a secondary attack force, but but you also have to remember that the defenders have a really big advantage when it comes to dying and respawning because the attackers are really far away from supply points. So defenders redeploying can be seen as, whoa! That is very interesting to see these guys kind of sally out. These are only Ironcap bow riders. They're a little bit fun, I would say. Um, They're difficult to catch since they are quite fast for bow riders, but they're not that fast as the heroes do catch them one at a time. Kind of rinsed out the Metalla Lori on the battering ram there. I do wonder what the ultimate goal was for taking that out. ECL does destroy the left-hand side. Van House probably didn't want to destroy that, but I don't think ECL wanted to give it a choice. Kind of strange that the defenders would want to destroy the wall break. Probably, actually, no. I mean, like, you get that same scenario on Wall Fort. You want to destroy the wall break so they can't get to B through the wall, which is pretty good strategy if you want to hold the wall or if you want to kind of hold them at the B and the C. But that leaves the supply point quite open. If you got people all the way at B, you could just brute force the supply point. If you brute force the C, you'll most likely get sandwiched after the primary attack. We got some nice skirmishing coming out, and probably underappreciated as well. Skirmishing really should not be underestimated, and there's nothing more painful than losing a couple guys. Even if you lose one monk is already extraordinarily devastating. Did lose a couple of outriders, though, 2 outriders by the looks of it. Van House is slowly moving along, though not really making much progress overall. The right-hand side has been mostly open for nearly every single team. They just waltz in, take the supply point, no real fighting in the back. I'm not sure. There is a list of the rewards for the House Legion League. Going to just quickly. Yep, they get a title, they get a frame, no avatar. The champion exclusive doctrine is probably something that I am wary of. I do want to know how powerful that is, and I do think that is a problem to give as a reward, depending on how the magnitude of power for those for the champion doctrine. I do think it needs to either be worthless. I mean, like it needs to be it needs to be a doctrine that has less strategic value than all the other doctrines. Because if it is a doctrine that is useful, or largely more useful than available options, then there's going to be a big problem for balancing reasons. But that's besides the point. Right now, we have a battle kicking off. We have some flamers right in it, although the flamers do seem to be quite safe, protected by a ton. Whoa, flamers from both sides actually did see a divine quarry get destroyed there. Surprisingly, that they sent the Outriders into that pile, and both sides did take a big old loss here. Taking an interesting approach right now. Oh, wow. Fight on multiple fronts right now. Yan Yudao coming in through the center, swipes out the center as well. So losing there on the right-hand side, losing on the center. Looks to be a win here on the left-hand side, though I can't really say for long. The Chevalier's doing amazing, tanking the Fortebraccios long enough for their crossbow units to kill them, though right now going to get pushed out, which is unfortunate. ECL winning on multiple fronts, not to be unexpected, but super heavy losses for VN House. We are down quite a bit now. Almost 200 units in the tier 4 down for the attackers. The number of deaths as well. We got 10 odd hero deaths coming out from VN House. That's not good at all. We could see some extra losses. A couple of Yan Yudaos look to have been caught. Front gate has been closed. Should be looking to destroy it, but unfortunately the enemy does not allow you to destroy it. I do think it's important to make sure that the front gate is a top priority for the attackers in a case where you are unsure of taking the A point in a single attack. For what I understand, BMO and BMP are not disqualified. You see, there hasn't really been an announcement. From what I know, only WAC has been disqualified because of a player playing who applied to the house after the sign-up period. Apparently one of the restrictions was that all members of a team needs to be part of the house. And it did look. Whoa, nice shot there. We do have like the contingent in the back and the contingent from the front from VN House is probably not in line with one another for VN House, but definitely did look good on did look good with multiple battles happening. I'm not entirely sure here. So I'm not entirely sure on BMP and BMO. Maybe they did also get disqualified. I'm pretty sure that they might make a official ruling later. It's just that after the scoring phase would probably be when they make it. So this is a really good point to make when you're facing artillery, is not to walk straight into it, as you can see that the holding force is quite significant. Although VN House does choose the hard road and just goes for it, we got some attacks in the back, probably making good work onto the supply point. Surprisingly, the cavalry coming in from this direction was much more effective, though VN House is making a move to shore up their rear line. Not sure how many are left, though. We have some more heroes coming out from VN House than we do ECL. A hard, solid grab could be the end for ECL's A point, but this Forte and this Mimilones, I'm not so sure if they can be knocked out just yet. That Forte just needs to deal with something very tough. Take them a while to kill. Whoa, John Rima getting taken down right now, but respawns from the defenders coming in with cavalry. This is something that nearly every person against ECL has done, and ECL is going to do to them. Come around and swipe out the cavalry. The front gate not being open does hamper their ability to go through the front gate straight away, so they cannot respond. 2 minutes left to go. I do think VN House is going to really struggle. There goes an open gate. Here comes reinforcements now. Very slow, in fact. I did think more people would be prepared, or at least VN House would probably have a faster spawning. But then again, they've already died once with ECL dying their first time just now. Most of them, anyway. I do think a couple of guys did die. Mostly cavalry just around. Could see a literal massacre of these ISGs, since nothing really can defend them besides their tough hide and their armor. I say hide because they have so much passive damage resistance that I think I'm sick of it. As you can see, when they're glowing yellow, they have 30% extra armor or something, and they also have 30% extra damage resistance while taking damage from the front. Not to mention that they have a pretty hefty armor, and so six. I know 6 teams got disqualified. Holy cow! I know Whack was one of them that got disqualified. Out of the disqualification, I do know that I haven't seen any more BMOs or BMP battles. I do know that Whack was disqualified, but um, I wouldn't be surprised if Saw got disqualified, but I thought they gave up instead of getting disqualified. Um, Beyond that, there is also KF that hasn't had a battle yet, and Vanguarda anyway hasn't had a battle. So um, for the most part, those are the 5 that I've noticed. Not that I've know that they've got disqualified. If you get what I understand, I haven't actually been told that they got disqualified officially. I just know that Whack has been officially disqualified because someone disclosed a qualification notification. Well, that's upsetting if strong teams do get disqualified. I don't think the disqualification ruling is out of bounds because we don't know the circumstances for the disqualification. But knowing that teams did get disqualified is upsetting. I just do hope that whatever disqualified them wasn't arbitrary, and really, it was a surprise for I think most people how the House Legion League worked, or for the most part, how the House Legion League was set up for on the live server rather than a uh, special server like a tournament server. But as to be expected, I mean, ECL sweeping out both battles, stronger performance from ECL. I do think VN House could do better if they could switch between that patience and the aggressiveness. ECL again kind of needs a bit more coordination VN House does have a strategy, but they do seem to be either all in aggressive or um, all in passive. When they switch or when they try to do both, they kind of fail, similarly to how ECL also fails at coordination between everyone. But ECL suffers from coordination issues more when people are trying to attack, but they're not attacking in um, in certain directions or from certain angles in time, even though they are attacking. Much better timing wise is from VN House, I would say, comparatively. Though weaker performance outright. Um, there were some cases where it looked like VN House was good trade, even trade, some some nice setups, but really lack some of the all-encompassing its strength to push their way through the defenders. And one of the more difficult tasks is always to get past the mass cavalry spawn. I do think unable unable to use the front gate for a respawn charge to catch the enemies off tempo, especially when they just came out with cavalry, is probably what leads to a lot of the attrition fatigue, or attrition and fatigue. It was very publicly announced. There's a HLL Discord. I only have the Conqueror's Blade League one. I, I only have the Conqueror's Blade League one, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't. Sometimes channels are not all visible to me because I'm not a player, so I only have the casters. I only have the casters ones open to me. So even if it was even if it was announced, I can't. I probably don't. I probably don't have. I probably can't see. I can't probably can't see the post that you're talking about. Unfortunately. Most groups disqualified were for players leaving the house. That is one of the rules, though. It does state in particular that all players. Hang on, I could probably. There is a. Yep, it says requirements. All members of a squad must be from the same house/cohort. I think cohort is a little bit too restrictive because I don't think there's a single cohort team in this entire league. And okay, so and then it continues, and none of the participants may leave said house/cohort until after the tournament. A house that changes its name during the tournament will be disqualified. Okay, so there is the primary disqualification, and then there's a secondary disqualification. So if you change your name, you get disqualified. If a participant of a squad leaves said house, it gets disqualified. So it doesn't even matter if they rejoin. Um, it is a requirement. My question is my question would probably go down as why the requirements are necessary, but at the same time, it's just like, why did your guys leave the house unless you they didn't want to participate anyway? So that's one thing. But nevertheless, unfortunately, I do have the Conqueror's Blade League um Discord. I don't have all the channels though. So I only see the Conquerors. I mean, I see the contents creators list. I see the old some of the old channels such as the Asia and the and the South America one. But I don't see anything else besides that. I do think you probably have a separate HLL, which is probably for other things. Uh, yeah, so you probably have something like that. But anyway, that's all for tonight. I mean, I wasn't unexpected for a short day. We didn't get to see a first battle, so we only got one battle for tonight, which was the second half. And I do think I do think that a public announcement would be appropriate from Booming Tech when they made the disqualification notice. I do think the fact that there hasn't been a public notification is upsetting, but I do I don't believe that it's the player's job to announce their disqualification. I think it is Booming Tech that really needs to do that. Though, thank you for telling me that six houses have been, or teams, however, have been disqualified. Apparently, WAC being one of them. I did already suspect that WAC was already one of the disqualified teams, but apparently, we could probably make a guess on the remaining. Obviously, I think since we haven't seen a single Vanguard battle, probably got disqualified, along with Saw, BMP, BMO, probably because Zidwan keeps asking about them. They probably got disqualified. CE is a team I haven't seen a single battle from. Probably got disqualified as well. So that's 5. With the last one, being who? There's a team here that only has one entry, which was H and B. Huh. Was it H and B? I don't know, Boba Fett. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they would have that requirement. It is quite strange that the requirement is extraordinarily strict and applies to the whole team. Um, or rather, it probably. Oh man, I don't want to say. I don't. I think it's better off not speculating some things about how quality control, how important this is to quality control. Honestly, they could make any arbitrary ruling since they do seem to change up the rules quite often, so we don't really get a concrete um, or persistent rules, but those that are there, we can see very clearly. So the requirements, so the requirement one was quite clear. But nevertheless, I do hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I will be closing up, and that's all for me for now. I will be streaming tomorrow as well. What is tomorrow's battle? We have BLK versus SVS. BLK is probably going to sweep the floor with SVS. Been a while since I've seen an SVS. I saw a couple of their battles early on. And then we have TNK versus BODS. TNK versus BODS. I feel like we've seen that one before. If not, I do think BODS is going to wipe the floor with TNK. But I think BLK did give BODS a good old fight, though. Do you think that BLK could have won one of the matches back then? But regardless, thank you for watching the stream, and I hope you guys enjoyed. But other than that, my name's Azukai. Have a nice day. Bye for now.